All right, so today we're diving into some pretty murky waters.
Oh, yeah.
We're looking at an excerpt from a geopolitical analysis that's frankly got me a little spooked.
Yeah, I guess right why.
It's about these final weeks of the outgoing U.S. president's term.
Right.
And the potential for things to go sideways in Ukraine.
Yeah, what's striking about this analysis is it focuses on the actors who might be working against a peaceful resolution.
See, that's what throws me.
Yeah.
Why would anybody want to keep this war going?
It seems counterintuitive.
Totally.
What's in it for them?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The piece dives into something called entrenched interests.
Entrenched interests. Okay, help me out here.
Sure.
What does that actually mean in this context?
So think about individuals and institutions that have really built their careers, their reputations, maybe even their fortunes around this conflict.
So for them, peace in Ukraine wouldn't just mean the end of the fighting.
Exactly.
It would mean their power, their influence.
Their whole world changes.
It all goes away.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the analysis specifically calls out Zelensky.
Yeah, Zelensky's situation.
Yeah.
It does seem particularly precarious.
Yeah.
The source suggests peace could mean the end of his political career.
At least.
Maybe even worse, but why?
Well, think about it.
I mean, wouldn't most Ukrainians want peace?
Of course.
Right.
But it's not that simple.
Okay.
He's become this wartime leader.
He's a symbol.
Right? A symbol of resistance.
Yeah.
If he makes concessions, if he gives in, that could be seen as betrayal.
Yeah.
He'll face criticism, maybe even threats.
So he's really in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly.
The piece also highlights the EU.
Right. The EU Commission.
So what are their entrenched interests?
Well, this analysis argues that they've fallen victim to the sunk cost fallacy.
Okay.
But on a massive scale.
So they've invested so much.
Politically, financially.
You can't walk away now.
It'd be incredibly difficult. So they're doubling down even if it means the conflict continues.
It seems that way.
But what are they so afraid of losing?
Well, it goes beyond just the money.
Okay.
I mean, the financial losses would be huge.
Sure.
But they're trying to establish themselves as a major geopolitical player.
Right.
And this is a test
of their credibility.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they back down. Now it looks like weakness.
And then other adversaries might get ideas.
Right.
So they're trapped too.
It seems so.
Just like Zelensky. And then on top of all this, you've got this huge wild card.
Oh, yeah.
The new U.S. president.
The incoming president. His past statements about ending the war have everybody on edge.
Well, he doesn't like business as usual either.
Right. And he's known for making deals.
Even if it upsets allies.
Exactly.
So is this a chance for de-escalation?
Yeah.
Or are these entrenched interests trying to stop that from happening?
That is the question.
Yeah.
And this is where things get a little ominous.
Okay.
The source suggests that these actors might try to force Russia's hand.
Provoke them.
Right. To derail peace talks.
So sabotage peace before it even begins.
Basically, yeah. They're setting a trap.
A trap.
Yeah.
So any move Russia makes just makes things worse.
It escalates the conflict, exactly.
So how do they plan to make this trap unavoidable?
Well, the source outlines several tactics.
Okay. I'm right. Lay it on me.
Okay. One option is exploiting the current U.S. administration's remaining time in office.
The lame duck period.
Exactly.
It always sounds a bit chaotic.
Yeah.
But why is that significant here?
Because during this transition, the outgoing administration has a lot of freedom.
They can make bold moves.
Yeah, without facing as much scrutiny.
Moves that could escalate the conflict.
Potentially.
And box in the new president. Chillin'.
Yeah, and the source suggests that they might increase arms shipments to Ukraine.
Okay. What kind of weapons are we talking about here?
Well, it's not necessarily about giving Ukraine a decisive advantage. The danger is giving them weapons that could inflict a lot of damage within Russia.
Yeah. Like strikes on Russian cities? That would be a major escalation.
Absolutely. It would change the entire dynamic.
Yeah, it would make a negotiated settlement seem impossible.
Exactly.
So they're talking about pushing Russia to the brink?
Yeah, forcing them into a corner.
It's a dangerous game.
Very dangerous.
And that's just the beginning.
Yeah. There are a lot of other tactics outlined in this analysis.
Okay. I think I'm ready for more. What else do they have planned?
So we were just discussing how they might use that lame duck period to escalate the conflict.
Yeah.
But there's another tactic that's even more chilling.
Okay.
They call it the Kiev proxy.
The Kiev proxy. That sounds ominous.
Yeah, it's not good.
What does it involve?
Basically using Ukraine itself to launch attacks.
Okay.
That would force Russia to respond.
So using Ukraine as a pawn.
Exactly. To shut down peace talks.
The source mentions Ukrainian cells.
Right.
So this isn't just random violence.
No cells implies organization.
Right.
A plan to get a reaction out of Russia.
And what kind of attacks are we talking?
The source specifically mentions high-profile terrorist attacks.
Oh, wow. That's terrifying.
It is. And it shows just how high the stakes are.
Yeah, these wouldn't be isolated incidents.
No, they'd be designed to inflict as much damage as possible.
And maybe even cause civilian casualties.
Potentially.
So acts of terrorism to trigger a full-scale Russian response.
That's what they're suggesting.
It's hard to believe anyone would even consider that.
It speaks to their desperation.
Yeah, they're willing to risk a catastrophe.
To get what they want.
So we've got the lame duck thing and the Kiev proxy.
Right.
What else?
Well, the next one might surprise you.
Okay.
The Moldovan Gambit.
The Moldovan Gambit. Okay, now this is interesting.
Yeah.
Most analysis focuses on Ukraine.
Right.
But this suggests a wider game.
Yeah, why Moldova?
Exactly.
It all comes down to a region called Transnistria.
Transnistria.
Yeah, it's a breakaway territory in Moldova.
Yeah.
With strong ties to Russia.
I vaguely remember hearing about that.
One of those frozen conflicts.
Yeah, it's been simmering for years.
Right. And the source says some actors might try to unfreeze it.
Unfreeze it. What does that even mean?
Basically start a new round of fighting.
Why would they do that?
To create another proxy war.
With Moldova as the pawn.
Exactly.
To provoke Russia.
Yeah, they're trying to expand the conflict.
Keep Russia bogged down.
Right.
Turn a regional conflict into a global one.
You got it. They want to back Russia into a corner.
And leave them with no choice but to lash out.
Exactly.
That's like a dangerous game of chess.
With real lives at stake.
Okay, so manipulating the U.S. administration, using Ukraine as a proxy, and now dragging Moldova into it.
It's a lot.
What else is in this playbook?
Well, the source also suggests Western intelligence agencies might be directly involved.
Directly involved in what?
In acts of sabotage within Russia itself.
Sabotage? Like what?
They don't get into specifics.
Okay.
But it's a disturbing thought.
There was that explosion on a Russian ship recently.
Yeah, in the Mediterranean.
Is that what they're talking about?
We can't say for sure.
But the timing is suspicious.
Very suspicious.
So covert operations?
Maybe even false flag attacks.
To escalate tensions.
And create a reason for intervention.
It's hard to know what's real anymore.
That's the point. They're blurring the lines.
Creating fear and uncertainty.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered some terrifying scenarios.
We have.
But I have a feeling we're not done yet.
You're right.
What's the final tactic?
The nuclear option.
Literally.
Potentially, yeah.
What do you mean?
Deploying Western troops to Ukraine.
Wow, that's a whole other level.
The source calls it a sacred sacrifice.
Chilling. Why would any country risk that?
It's about signaling.
Signaling what?
A show of force. A challenge to Russia.
But wouldn't that practically guarantee a war?
It's a gamble.
What if Western troops are attacked?
Right. That could trigger NATO's Article 5.
The Mutual Defense Clause.
Exactly.
So they're looking for a country to take that risk.
A country willing to be the sacrificial lamb.
It's unbelievable. They'd sacrifice a nation.
To provoke a response from a nuclear superpower.
It's hard to believe this is even real.
I know. But this isn't just a conspiracy theory.
Right.
It's a real assessment of the dangers.
The pursuit of power comes at a terrible cost.
It does.
And while these games are being played,
yeah,
real people are suffering.
You're right. We can't forget the human cost.
While these actors are making their moves, innocent people are dying.
Families are being torn apart.
An entire region destabilized.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the analysis.
Great, the strategy, the scenarios.
But this isn't a game.
No.
It's a real tragedy.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
What if even one of these scenarios happens?
Before the new president takes office.
Right. What would that mean for the world?
Yeah, it does feel pretty hopeless.
I understand that, but the analysis doesn't end with despair.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's actually a glimmer of hope.
After all that talk of traps and escalations, I'm ready for some good news.
Okay, well, the source says the key is pragmatism.
Pragmatism? What does that look like in this situation?
Basically recognizing the reality on the ground.
Okay.
Setting aside ideology.
Right.
And focusing on achievable goals.
So shifting the focus from winning to finding a solution.
Exactly. Even if it means making compromises.
So less about punishing Russia and more about stabilizing things.
Right.
Even if it means accepting some uncomfortable realities.
Yeah.
It sounds like a long shot.
It won't be easy. But the new president,
his
reputation as a deal maker,
right,
That could actually be an asset.
Because he's not beholden to the same interests.
Exactly.
So his outsider status, which seemed like a liability, might actually give him more flexibility.
He's not burdened by the past.
He can approach this with fresh eyes.
Exactly.
Okay, let's say he's willing to be pragmatic. What about Russia?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
After being painted as the aggressor, would they be open to a solution?
Well, the source suggests that Russia's goals might be more limited than we think.
So they're not looking to conquer all of Ukraine.
That's what the source implies.
Okay.
Their main objectives are securing their borders, protecting their interests, and preventing Ukraine from becoming a Western outpost.
So security and influence.
Yeah, not necessarily territorial expansion.
So there's a possibility for a settlement.
Potentially.
One that addresses Russia's concerns and the West's desire for an independent Ukraine.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm seeing a sliver of light here.
Good.
But let's be realistic. There are people actively trying to sabotage peace.
That's true.
How do you neutralize them?
The source says it comes down to incentives.
Incentives? Like what?
Financial incentives for some.
Okay.
Like reconstruction contracts.
Right.
Political incentives for others.
Okay.
Guarantees of security or recognition.
So understanding what each player wants.
Yeah. And using that to nudge them towards peace.
It's a delicate dance.
It is, but it's a possible path forward.
It's not about ignoring the complexities or pretending everyone will be altruistic.
Right.
It's about recognizing that self-interest can sometimes lead to peace.
Exactly.
Well, that's a more hopeful note to end on.
It is.
This whole conversation has been a roller coaster.
From despair to possibility.
Exactly. But I think it highlights something important.
What's that?
Even when things seem hopeless, we can't give up on peace.
I agree. It might require unconventional thinking.
And a willingness to take risks.
But it's worth it.
So what does this mean for our listener?
Pay attention to the signals from all sides.
Okay.
Are they doubling down or hinting at compromise?
Got it.
Are they escalating or looking for a way out?
And what about the new president?
Watch his early appointments.
Who does he choose?
Right. What are their views?
And his early pronouncements.
Yeah. His interactions with Russia, Ukraine, and the EU.
So reading between the lines.
Exactly. Looking for those subtle shifts.
Watching for action, speaking louder than words.
And remember, this isn't a spectator sport.
We all have a role to play.
By staying informed.
Speaking out.
And holding our leaders accountable.
Because peace is something we have to create.
Well said.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive for today.
It does.
We explored some disturbing scenarios.
Yeah.
But we ended on a note of optimism.
Cautious optimism.
We'll continue to follow this story.
Will.
And bring you updates as they develop.
Until next time.
Stay curious, stay engaged, and as always, stay informed.